It's here, the iPhone 14 Pro Max with huge upgrades on camera across the board. You can pause the screen right here to see what the upgrades are from the iPhone 13 Pro Max because it's very vital for you to know the differences in specs. Now with that out of the way, the headliner of course is that new 48 megapixel camera sensor that Apple is using for the very first time. And I think that it is a variant of the Sony IMX700 because the pixel size and the sensor size are exactly the same. But the point here is Android phones have been using 48 megapixel cameras forever. In fact, now we have Android phones with 200 megapixel cameras. Although you and I both know that these numbers don't tell the whole story, it all boils down to how these cameras perform in real life. So I've tried to cover all the bases in this comparison of the iPhone 14 Pro Max's camera setup against the Galaxy S22 Ultra, which is possibly one of the best Android camera setups out there. So brace yourselves, this one's going to be a really long video because I've tried to keep it very detailed and technical. So if you don't know me yet, I'm Ershad, you're watching Trakin Tech English.
Let the battle begin.
So starting off with the 12 megapixel pixel bin samples from both these phones, they look equally sharp until you pixel peep. That's when you notice that the iPhone 14 Pro Max offers clean and crisp textures which are enhanced by the sharpening algorithm used by Apple. But there is definitely that slight over-sharpened look when you look specifically at the foliage on the tree in the foreground in the second set of samples. It is a bit of toss-up when it comes to sharpness and primary sensor details because for social media sharing, this much sharpness is good enough for most people, so we'll call this one a draw. But the bigger problem here is iPhone's woes with bright scenarios. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, just like the iPhone 13 Pro Max preceding it, almost always blows out the highlights, where Samsung does a better job generally. And in proper high dynamic range situations, the Galaxy S22 Ultra also brings out more details from the shadows, like this one here, which is a very tough situation to shoot. But in medium dynamic range situations, both are equally matched. I think overall, Samsung wins the HDR round. As for the color reproduction, you get closer to natural color rendering on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. My car's color here is rendered accurately on the iPhone as opposed to the S22 Ultra, which makes it slightly pink. Even the color of the leaves are more true to life on the iPhone. Plus, the contrast legit makes the picture look more dynamic on the iPhone. In the second sample set, the blues are almost identical on both, but the reds are definitely off on the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Now you can fix this in post, but technically the iPhone wins here. Alright, before we move on, if you like the kind of content that we make, don't forget to hit the red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever we put out an awesome new tech video. And such videos take a lot of effort to make, so if you like it, it would be awesome if you can give us a thumbs up and maybe even comment below for the sake of the YouTube algorithm to serve this video to people looking for an iPhone 14 Pro Max versus Galaxy S22 Ultra comparison. Another area where the iPhone beats the Samsung is in picking the right white balance every single time. I particularly like how the algorithm identifies that a warm light is being used in this room and doesn't change the white point to a cooler one like Samsung does. Now coming to pictures of people, the iPhone's pictures are so good. You get tack sharp focus, crisp details, supremely accurate facial tones, and overall better color rendition and the right amount of contrast to make the image pop too. On its own, the S22 Ultra is not too bad, but in comparison, it pales. Quite literally. Even against the light, the iPhone exposes the face much better and preserves the details and colors too. Even if you have more people in the frame, all your friends are going to gravitate towards the iPhone 14 Pro's shot. Against the light here, again the iPhone overexposes the background, but it is not too much of an issue because of how well the subjects in the foreground have been reproduced. The play of lights out here creates the right kind of dynamics on their faces, and the contrast is very well balanced too on the iPhone's shot. In portrait mode, Samsung does offer slightly better edge detection, but the iPhone looks very good, and I'll come to why in a bit. And now you can also use that 2x telephoto shot, which is basically a crop of the primary sensor, for portrait shots as well. In fact, the 2x mode is the default mode. However, the 2x portrait shot is generally softer because it doesn't offer pixel binning. But again, these are absolutely gorgeous to look at. And in this particular portrait shot of my three colleagues, I just love the depth mapping on the iPhone. Not only does the algorithm keep all the three in focus, but also it creates a gradual blur on the rear that looks very natural and almost DSLR-like. Now, while I think that the edge detection has room for improvement on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the software-induced, bokeh blur that you get with the 14 Pro Max is one of the most believable implementations out there. If you plan to shoot low-light portrait shots, the iPhone 14 Pro Max will advise you to zoom out and capture the image or to use the flash. So at 1x, the comparison is once again in favor of the iPhone here. You get sharper textures and correct facial tones too. The bokeh effect is very pleasing as well. The Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra's depth mapping is definitely better and the bokeh effect looks quite good too, though it could have been sharper and more color accurate. However, Samsung's advantage is that it lets you shoot with the 3x camera as well, and that definitely is better looking than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Okay, finally, let's move on to the low light improvements on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I definitely do see a lot of improvements here. In this first sample, the first thing I want to highlight is that the iPhone's color temperature is spot on. Secondly, the S22 Ultra has a lot of luminance and shadow noise, especially around the corners, which the iPhone 14 Pro Max's algorithm completely eliminates. Plus, it's a tad bit sharper too. But there's one persistent problem that Apple's camera engineers refuse to fix, and that is the fact that the shadows are crushed and you cannot find any details in the darker portions of the image. In this sample, where you have some information in the darker regions of the foliage in the S22 Ultra's image, you can see pitch dark in the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It's almost like a blob of black hole that you can, escape into. In this final shot, the iPhone recreates a very realistic image and white balance too. And while you do get super duper sharp textures compared to the S22 Ultra, the shadows are crushed. By the way, the iPhone keeps the noise in favor of the details, where Samsung's algorithm just softens it to an extent that you can see the green chromatic aberration around the coffee table area. Now, Apple claims that it has improved the flash performance on the iPhone 14 Pro Max as well by using more hardware, so I decided to test it out after a long time actually. What I noticed is that you definitely get even lighting and a more natural overall look with the right kind of exposure. Plus, it brings out more details and cuts out the noise compared to the Galaxy S22 Ultra shot. So my general feeling after comparing all the shots from the primary camera on these two phones was that, see, Samsung's not really doing a bad job, but Apple's just doing it way better. And a big chunk of that credit goes to Apple's new photonic engine, which is an upgraded version of the deep fusion tech that it introduced a couple of years ago. Now, coming to the ultrawide on both these phones, they literally have the same specs. And that is why when it comes to the sharpness in daylight capture, you really cannot spot any differences. But yes, the iPhone is definitely more color accurate. However, as inaccurate as the colors are, the color science consistency between the primary and the ultrawide is matched on the Galaxy S22 Ultra, which is also true for the iPhone. In HDR again, if you're shooting a very bright scene, the iPhone does nothing to fix the overblown highlights. In medium dynamic range situations, both are evenly matched though. When it comes to low light, the Galaxy S22 Ultra's ultra-wide angle camera redeems itself. You get sharper textures with lower noise too, and no crushed shadows either, like you can see on the iPhone. In fact, in the second sample, the iPhone refused to fire the night mode, come what may. It creates a lot of vignetting and a moody look too. Now you can also use the ultrawides on both these phones to shoot macro shots. And somehow the iPhone offers finer textures compared to the S22 Ultra, but you have to be careful of the lens distortion around the sides. Samsung clearly does a far better job of the distortion correction. Now everyone expected the iPhone 14 Pro and the Pro Max to come with a periscope camera, but Apple didn't budge. On the contrary, what it did is that it's now taking 12 MP cropped samples from that large 48 MP sensor and calling it 2x optical zoom, which I think is highly generous of them. Because the level of detail is not the same as the primary camera because you don't get pixel bending out there. Anyway, when I compared the 2x shot to Samsung's digitally zoomed version, the iPhone is definitely crisper, and the color science consistency with the primary camera is obviously good, no doubt. In low light, this implementation also helps Apple let in more light, and hence you get much sharper textures and far less chromatic aberration compared to Samsung. But yes, those crush shadows are Apple's staple feature and will raise its ugly head every single time you evaluate a low light shot using any of the cameras. I've been using the Galaxy S22 Ultra's camera since its launch, and my most often used camera is the 3x telephoto one. That's how much I love it. The framing you can achieve with it is just crazy, and this is where I think both are evenly matched in daylight. I really couldn't tell the difference, in sharpness especially. In fact, what I noticed is that the color science on the 3x shot of of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra is slightly different from the primary one. It's actually closer to the iPhone 14 Pro Max's natural reproduction, which is probably why I like it a lot. But the iPhone's camera beats the S22 Ultra in low light 3x telephoto shot. There are a lot of issues with the processing on the Galaxy S22 Ultra's 3x shot, where I saw a lot of common problems of chromatic aberration and luminance noise too. But anything 10x and beyond, Samsung just kills it. And at 10x, when you look at the samples, the quality difference is immediately apparent to your eyes. On the iPhone, you can do a maximum of 15x. Samsung can do 10, 30, even 100. Now, like I mentioned, Apple has made a lot of upgrades across the board, and it has also upgraded the selfie camera on the front, along with it being inside a pill-shaped notch now. So the selfie camera now has a wider aperture lens and face detection autofocus too. But Samsung's 40 megapixel selfie camera is in a different league altogether. In bright daylight selfies, you get equally sharp textures on both, but Samsung offers such a beautiful natural bokeh, it looks absolutely stunning. So a lot of the background in the iPhone's shot is in focus because it doesn't use as big a sensor as Samsung does. Now, as for the skin tone rendering, the iPhone is definitely more accurate. Samsung tends to be on the warmer side. Against the light, both are equally good. I have no concerns here, but portrait selfies are better looking on the Galaxy S22 Ultra purely because of the fantastic edge detection, because you can see that my strands of hair have also been identified correctly. But for some odd reason, both these phones cannot detect two people in the frame at the same time and cut them out separately, which should definitely happen, don't you think? Now, considering the larger sensor size on the selfie camera of the Galaxy S22 Ultra, I actually expected the low light selfies to be better, but the story is slightly different. There's a lot of detail smearing and green chromatic aberration too, especially when you take a look at my black t-shirt. iPhone just does it way better. I really expected better from Samsung's selfie camera in low light. Now, what makes these the top end cameras out there? Because you can actually shoot 4K 60 FPS videos using every single camera that's available for you. In fact, Samsung does go one step further and offers 8K video recording using the primary camera, but I don't think a lot of people have use for it. Is there anyone out there who actually shoots 8K videos? Do let me know in the comment section below. Or even ProRes for that matter, using the iPhone 14 Pro and the Pro Max. I think ProRes will still have some takers, but 8K maybe not. Let's just get to the comment section and figure that out. Testing the 4K 60 FPS video using the rear camera give these phones ample light, and they do a fantastic job with detail and color reproduction. But the iPhone has an edge with support for Dolby Vision video recording option. In fact, the HDR performance in video recording is better than the still photography, that's for sure. Now, yes, Samsung can also shoot HDR10 videos, but it is still in the labs mode and it's not really come out for everybody to use. So overall, the iPhone does get a slight edge here when it comes to HDR performance. Sound recording, on the other hand, I think the Samsung cuts out wind noise better, and overall you get better dynamics in the sound as well. The iPhone's not really bad, but when you're recording outside, Samsung does it better. Indoors, both are equally matched.
Do let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the image quality, the image stabilization, and the sound recording. Do let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the image quality, the image stabilization, and the sound recording.
Now, my findings for the 4K 60 FPS video recording using the primary camera is true for all the other cameras in the stack as well, which is basically the Telephoto and the Ultrawide. Now, when it comes to 4K 60 FPS video recording using the Telephoto and the Ultrawide, both are almost equally matched, except for the fact that you get better HDR quality on the iPhone and slightly better sound recording, especially outdoors, on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. So why does everybody say that iPhone's video recording is the best out there when Samsung can match it in daylight? Because, well, low light video recording. You know what? I'll just let the sample footages that I have captured do the talking for themselves, because I've been talking for a while and I want to take a breather. Now, the other upgrade on the iPhone 14 Pro Max is that cinematic videos can now be shot at 4K 30 FPS. Now, that just takes the lead even further. No Android phone's bokeh mode, let alone the Galaxy S22 Ultra, can match the iPhone. The edge cutout, the automatic subject switch, the natural bokeh, all of it is so well done on the iPhone's cinematic mode. Finally, there's one more new feature on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and that is action mode, which offers a gimbal-like stabilization, which is better than regular stabilization, that's for sure. Apple currently offers the action mode at 2.8K resolution and 60 frames per second. Now, I was slightly confused when you don't see that stabilization happen live on camera when you're shooting it, but when you see the end result, that's where the beauty lies. The quality is definitely better on the iPhone as far as the details are concerned because you get more resolution. Plus, there is no unnecessary jelly effect either. It looks very much like you're holding a gimbal camera and running with it. The generated effect is definitely better than Samsung, whether you're shooting with the ultrawide or whether you're shooting with the 1x camera. And when it comes to front camera video recording at 4K 60 FPS, even that's better on the iPhone. You get better facial tones, a wider field of view, and the option to shoot in Dolby Vision as well. You can see it for yourself. Plus, sound recording is very good as Samsung.
What is that about the image quality, the image stabilization and the sound recording? What is that about the image quality, the image stabilization and the sound recording?
Where it obliterates the Samsung is in low light video recording using the front camera, where there's far lesser noise and a much brighter exposure too. I know that there are a lot of positives in the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but that's exactly where it is right now. Even the focusing speed is much faster, so the shot to shot speeds are better than the Galaxy S22 Ultra. In fact, the Galaxy S22 Ultra takes a few seconds extra just to process the picture after you've taken it. Also, I've added this new test where I check the social media performance of these phones. Basically, I use the Instagram's default camera to capture pictures, and the difference is just night and day in the kind of pictures that you can get from the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Although there's one reason why a lot of people will gravitate towards the Galaxy S22 Ultra is because of the number of features that are available. You get the separate director's view mode and a single take within the camera itself that uses the power of the processor to use all the cameras at once to do some kind of processing. On the iPhone, you will have to use a specialized app like Filmic Pro to use all the cameras at once. All in all, the iPhone 14 Pro Max wins in a lot of categories and is probably the best overall camera smartphone out there for most people. If buying only the best camera phone is the top of your priority list, then the iPhone 14 Pro/Pro Max should be on top of your priority list as well, because it offers fast shooting speeds and consistently sharp and color accurate pictures as well. And of course, I don't even have to talk about the video recording chops of the iPhone 14 Pro Max because it is the best out there. However, I know that a lot of people will be gravitating towards the S22 Ultra, and there are 3 reasons why I think somebody should pick it up. Firstly, you should absolutely love optical zoom, which is something that I actually love. Therefore, I use the 3x camera and the 10x camera a lot, and which is why the S22 Ultra has been my primary phone since the day it launched. Or if you shoot a lot in the bright outdoor sun, because the iPhone will do nothing to fix the overblown highlights. Or because you don't want to spend too much for the iPhone 14 Pro/Pro Max, because currently the Galaxy S22 Ultra is a whole lot more affordable than these phones, especially in India. So which one of these 2 camera setups did you prefer? The iPhone 14 Pro Max or the Galaxy S22 Ultra? Do let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Arshad signing off. Keep tracking and stay safe.